Oh. Oh, wow. Oh, you did? Have you been? Have you guys been here the whole time? Oh, my goodness. I am so sorry that I'm late. Would you please forgive me? Oh, you're so good. Thank you so much. I was practicing my bell kicks. I heard there's a rumor going around that everyone's learning bell kicks. Would you guys like to see it? Okay. Huh? Okay, one more time. Ready? Why? You are all so kind. Thank you. Oh, a note. What? And what is Mr. Walton doing awake? Let's see. Oh, it's from my dearest Mrs. Brownbush. Isn't she so pretty? Walton is not feeling well. Oh. Can you please give him plenty of snuggles? Well, I'm not really the snuggling type, but if that's what Mrs. Brownbush wants, then we'll snuggle with Mr. Brownbush. Wait, no, I'm Mr. Brownbush. This is Walton. Shall we? Let's put him right here. I hope he doesn't mind being down by my feet. Oh, all right. Well, it's so wonderful to see you all today. And I am excited to pick up this story because, oh man, it gets great. Are you guys ready to pick up the story? Excellent. Okay, now, it took Mr. Adoniram just a few days to go up the Burmese River to visit the capital. If you remember, he was going to go and visit the king. Remember? He wanted to go up there and get an audience with the king so that hopefully the king would allow him to continue to teach everyone about Jesus. And so that's what he did. He went up, and guess what? He talked to the king, and oh man, the king did not want anything to do with their religion. He said, "Get out. I don't want anything to do with your religion. Go." Now, this was disappointing, but at least he didn't kill him because he had killed other people before, and that would have been super bad. So, what were they going to do? The team didn't know what to do anymore, but they decided it would probably be best if we split our group. The Judsons would stay in Rangoon, and the Colemans would go to another area of Burma. And so that's what they did. Now, they were sad to see the Colemans go, but they knew they needed to stay in Rangoon, even if it was unsafe, so that they could support the new Christians that had just been, had accepted Christ there. So that's what they did. Now, things were very tough. Things have always been tough, but especially this time because Anne got sick. And she got so sick that the doctors couldn't take care of her there. So she had to go back on a ship all the way back to the United States to hopefully get better. So that's what she did. Now, remember, this was a long time ago. And you couldn't just jump on an airplane and fly across the ocean. She had to be on a boat for a long time. And when she got to America, she would be in America for a long time. And then she probably would not come back for a long time. So Miss Anne and Mr. Adoniram knew that they probably wouldn't see each other for like 2 years. 2 years. And that was so sad. It was so sad that Mr. Adoniram said that it felt like someone had chopped his arm off because he was missing a part of him that was so important to him. But God brought some help to Mr. Adoniram because there was a couple named Jonathan and Hope Price who came and helped them out. Now, Jonathan was a doctor. He was a very good doctor. And soon, that king that had kicked out Adoniram from his court and said, "I don't want anything to do with you," he had heard about this wonderful doctor who had been doing great things, and he wanted to talk to them. So he demanded that they come before him. So Adoniram and Dr. Price went to see the king. Now, this was good that the king wanted to talk to them and not kill them, remember? Unfortunately, though, the king said that they could not go back. They had to stay here with the king in case the king needed some medical help. Now, that was a bummer, but they were not allowed to disobey the king. What do you think would happen if you disobeyed a king?
You would die.
Oh, yes. And so they had to stay there. And that's exactly what they did. They didn't disobey the king. But after a few months, the king did give them permission to return. And guess what else he said? He said they could build their own church. Isn't that amazing? What a change that we've seen in the king, going from telling them that he didn't want anything to do with their religion to now allowing them to build a church. Isn't that amazing? Now, back in Rangoon, Adoniram found out that many of the new Christians were being treated badly by the Burmese people. They were kicking them out of their homes and stealing their things. And now they knew that this was hard, but they also knew that this was what would happen for Christians in new places. Sometimes this would happen. And so they prayed to God for strength. But soon, Mr. Adoniram got some exciting news, because guess who was coming back? Anne was coming back, and he was so happy. And even more than that, Anne was bringing more missionaries. The Hoffs had come back with their printing press. Now there would be so many people to help them. Once Anne arrived, she and Adoniram decided to go live in Ava, the capital city, while the Huffs and the Wades stayed in Rangoon. They would start a new missionary work there. But when they arrived, Adoniram heard from Dr. Price that things had started to change. The problems between the British and the Burmese people had gotten worse. The people Adoniram had made friends with no longer wanted to be friends with Adoniram. A year later, it was official. The Burmese and the British were at war. And the British had captured they had captured Rangoon and had control over it. Also, the Judsons had learned that there were rumors swirling around that Mr. Adoniram was a spy. What do you think the Burmese king would do with people who are spies? Kill them. But he put them in prison, but not before. One night, Adoniram and his family were sitting enjoying a meal, and boom, barged in these bad men with spots all over their face. These were criminals. They were criminals that the king had allowed to live if they would go and round up all of the bad people in the country. And that's what they were there for. They were there to take Mr. Adoniram and all of his friends and send them to jail. And he pleaded with them, please don't take Anne. And thankfully, they left Anne. And before he knew it, they were thrown in prison. Now this prison, like many things, was not a great place. It smelled. There was no place to go to the bathroom. They didn't give you any food. And worst of all, when they slept, they tied their ankles together and they pulled them up by 4 feet, and they only hung on their shoulders and their head. Like this. Could you imagine sleeping every night like that on the ground where everyone is going to the bathroom and where rats are running all over by your face every single night? This was a bad, miserable place. But they trusted in God, and they asked him, is it really worth it? Is this really worth all of this effort? And they decided, yes, it was, because it's always worth it that people who don't know Jesus would learn about Jesus. They couldn't understand, but they kept trusting. He and Anne were willing to sacrifice everything to make sure that people would hear the good news of Jesus Christ. Now, thankfully, even though the prison didn't give them food, Anne was able to come and visit and bring them food. So they had a little tiny bit of food. Now, the first time that Anne saw Mr. Adoniram, she cried. She was so sad to see her husband, who was strong and healthy, be sick and thin and frail because of all the mistreatment. The prison, like I said, didn't give them any food, but Adoniram was able to get a little bit from Anne. Anne also promised that she was going to use her relationships with the governor to try to see if she could get them moved to a different part, or maybe even come out of jail and explain that they're not spies. We're just here to tell people about Jesus. During one of these short visits, Adoniram asked if Anne could do something sneaky. He was concerned that if people thought they were spies, that they would come and steal the New Testament that he had translated into the Burmese language. And so he asked her to sew it into a pillow, a gross, yucky, ugly-looking pillow, because he knew that the prison guards wouldn't try to steal anything gross and nasty and yucky from those prisoners. So that's what Anne did. Weeks and weeks went by, and the prisoners had no idea what was going to happen to them. Sometimes they would hear people screaming in pain and agony because they were getting tortured and they were getting killed. And they just sat in a cold, dark cell. But one day, Anne's effort paid off. She was able to get the guards to move them out of their stinky, smelly cells into another prison that was at least open to the air so they could have some fresh air. And also, Anne was pregnant with one of their babies. He got a note from her one day that said that she had had the baby and everyone was healthy. That's good news, and something that Adoniram was able to thank God for. Burma was losing the war against the British, who was much stronger and more powerful. And it was decided that they would move them out of this prison into another area. It had been almost a whole year since Adoniram first came to the prison. He was sick and very, very thin and weak. And he felt like he could barely move, but they had to walk for 8 miles in really hot heat. They only made it halfway before all of the sick prisoners could not walk anymore. They were put on carts and taken the rest of the way. And once they stopped, they chained them up again, and Mr. Adoniram lost consciousness. That means he went to sleep because of how much pain he was experiencing. Now this place was even worse than before because it was next to a bunch of rice paddies. And rice paddies have lots of water. And what's in lots of water? Mosquitoes. And all of that walking on their feet created these gross, yucky sores. And you remember how I showed you that they got tied up? At night, when they were tied up, the mosquitoes would sit on their feet and be biting them and eating the gross, yucky things on their feet. And it was so itchy, but they couldn't do anything about it because they were tied up. This place was terrible. Also, when they moved them, Adoniram was not allowed to bring the pillow with the New Testament that he had worked so hard sewn inside. Mr. Adoniram was so sad that all of his hard work would have been lost forever. And he was so sad that he would have to start over, and even more sad that the Burmese people wouldn't have the New Testament in their own language to learn about Jesus. But thankfully, Anne had found them. Anne had found where they were and was able to come and visit with them. She had found him and brought their now 3-month-old baby, Maria. So Mr. Adoniram was able to meet his daughter, Maria. And Anne was able to stay close and give them food and help the men with their health. And thankfully, with Anne's help, they were able to feel a little bit stronger. Now, the men were moved again, but this time it was different. The men were, because they knew the language of the Burmese and they knew English, which was the language of the British and the Burmese were trying to work on a treaty. And so they asked these men to come with them to help translate. The war was over and the prisoners were going to be set free. The Judson family was finally together and heading back to Rangoon. After all that pain and difficulty, God took them out and brought them in together. And that night, they got some most surprising news in their lives. A man that had become a Christian, a Burmese man, his name was Mung Ing. He went back to the prison where Mr. Adoniram had first been stationed in hopes of finding something that he could remember Mr. Adoniram by. And guess what he found? The pillow! He found the pillow with the New Testament. Mr. Adoniram's work had not been lost. He was able to take that New Testament and keep it, and so he could give it to all of the Burmese people so they could learn about Jesus. When he brought it back to the house, he kept it safe until Adoniram had been released. And Mong Ing was able to bring the papers to Adoniram. The Judsons were in disbelief, but they praised God for what an amazing gift he had given them. Even when things were hard, they were reminded that they could trust God through all of it. Even when Mr. Adoniram was in that prison and he prayed to God, he knew that even if he died, because he had turned away from his sins and put his trust in Jesus Christ, that when he died, he would go to heaven, because that is the God that he served. And you know the coolest thing? That's the God that we all can serve. If we turn away from our sin and put our trust in Jesus Christ, the same God who rescued Adoniram from the jail, who rescued him from the prison, who protected the New Testament, he can be your God, and he can protect you from dying and being separated from him. The wonderful news, the news that Mr. Adoniram and all his friends were sharing throughout the whole world and in Burmese. They knew that wherever God took them next, he would always be with them. Isn't that amazing? So tomorrow when you come back, Mrs. Brownbush is going to have more of this incredible story to tell you. And right now, I just want to remind you of our own missionaries, Mr. Paul and Margie Varberg, who are doing this same work in the Philippines. So I hope that you guys are doing wonderful jobs with your friends and your family and selling things and raising money for our missionaries. So you guys have a great rest of the day. I need to go back to practicing my bell kicks. It was so good to see you all. Bye. Bye. Oh yeah, Mr. Walton. I'm going to snuggle with Mr. Walton. Bye. Bye.